Welcome, everyone. How's the show been? Good? Awesome. So this is my version of BCDR, Dirty Deeds Done Cheap. I was hoping to play a little AC/DC for you, but of course that breaks the rules of the conference. So if you want to hear the song, you'll have to go play it on your own after the session. Maybe you'll be in the mood for it. No. So anyways, my name's Theresa Miller. I'm a principal technologist with Cohesity. I also have a community website if you're looking for some up-to-date, latest and greatest information on various IT topics. I'm at 24/7 IT Connection, and I'm on Twitter as 24/7 IT Connect. I also like to just share a little bit about me from a personal perspective. I think it's nice to look beyond the technology, right, the technical side, because I did have some of my industry recognitions up on the first slide, but there's always more to the person. So I've taken a liking to mojitos. I enjoy a nice tea or a latte from time to time. I did my first tandem skydive a couple years ago. Recently, I was introduced to Cajun food, Cajun food. It was phenomenal. I'm surprised I had never had it before, and I like to grow roses. So let's get right down into the topic. So I wanted to have a little bit of fun with this since we were going after the AC/DC theme. So I rewrote the titles on the record here. So what we're going to cover today is BCDR. We're going to just take a look at what that means from a definition perspective and talk about it from a current state perspective. We'll talk about the problem that organizations are faced with, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you can avoid the pitfalls and be successful with business continuity and disaster recovery. So, as promised, just to do a level set on what these each are. So the business continuity piece, according to Wikipedia, basically is that you're going to keep your business up and running no matter what you're faced with, right? It's about continuing business, keeping the users running regardless of what's going on around you. Then there's the disaster recovery piece, and of course that's very important to business continuity. It's your ability to make sure that all of those computer systems come online wherever your disaster recovery setup is. So disasters come in many different forms, and we never know what we'll be faced with. So it could be protests, it could be flooding, fires, it could even be security breaches that put us into a disaster of sorts. And even something like a lightning strike could really cause some chaos for our enterprises. And I want to focus on the weather a little bit further because I found this to be very interesting. So the National Oceanic Organization put out a map. Now this doesn't have all 11, but in the last year there have actually been 11 weather-related disasters that have created over $1 billion in business loss in terms of profits. So when you really think about that, it makes you kind of step back and say, whoa, if I don't have disaster recovery or business continuity, how is that going to affect my business? Or if I do have it, am I doing it in a way that I know it will work? So let's talk a little bit more about the problem. So I certainly don't want any of you feeling like you're hanging from a cliff, right, when it comes to this topic and the decisions that you may be faced with. So Spiceworks did a survey recently, and one of the statistics that they shared was that 5% of companies don't have any disaster recovery. At the end of the day, that sounds a little bit low to me, but when you think about it, I mean, disaster recovery comes in many different forms, right? So it could be that you've thought about it, you kind of have a plan, maybe it's just not as automated, as seamless as it should be, or maybe it's not tested. The other thing that I thought was pretty interesting statistically, Gartner did a research study, kind of tying back to what I talked about with the business profit loss with weather. If you experience a disaster, it is $5,600 a minute in cost. That's the average cost. Now, of course, every different organization is a little different, but that's a lot of money for downtime, and it adds up pretty fast. Now, from the technology perspective, I think some of the challenges that I've personally seen in the enterprise come from even just getting disaster recovery off the ground. I know I worked in multiple organizations where disaster recovery was always like part of the annual planning, it was part of the budget, and it would get cut because there wasn't the funding to support it. And getting cut can be pretty significant when you think about the business impact we just talked about. The other thing is where I have worked in enterprises that do have disaster recovery, I think some of the challenges that I've experienced come down to the environment is always changing, right? If your company's growing, you're always adding servers, you might even be re-IPing things, but you're growing and expanding and it's changing. And a lot of the processes and products available for disaster recovery are actually quite manual, or there's scripting involved. So you really need the right team of people to put disaster recovery in place in a successful way. And then the other thing that I see as a big problem is the testing. So it's great. It's one thing to say you have disaster recovery. And actually, just a quick show of hands, who has a disaster recovery plan of sorts today? Something. Okay, that seems to be the magic number. This is the third time I've talked about disaster recovery in the last couple days, and it's always 4 people in my audience. And of course, the crowd size has been a little bit different across the board, but for this audience, that's actually pretty decent. I'm glad 4 of you have it. All right, so then back on to the problem. So I think testing is the big one. And then tying into testing, there's the users. When you're testing, are you making sure that the user experience is similar to what they're doing, right? Or right, and you're shaking your head no. Are the users going to know what to do if you fail over? They may not know how to access their systems. And then one other major consideration, this goes beyond the users. What about your IT team? What is the communication plan if all of your systems are down? How are you communicating with each other? Interesting thing that I went through, so enterprise that I was working in, we had disaster recovery and business continuity, and we tested it. But we had a miss, and our miss was we were going to use email for communication. Well, there's a delay in the email coming up online in disaster recovery, and what we realized is that we needed an external system that was actually, it was a cloud-based product is what we implemented, something that wasn't tied to our local infrastructure to make sure that the teams could communicate successfully in a true disaster. So I think those are the major problems that I've seen. So on this next slide, then, I really just want to step back and talk about how I think you can work to avoid the pitfalls of disaster recovery. We talked about a lot of the gaps and challenges that enterprises face. So how do you be successful with disaster recovery? So one, don't cut it from the budget, right? I think that's the major first step. Now I know that can be really hard just because I've seen the struggle. The struggle's real. But what I've also seen is that there are a lot of really great new product offerings out there that can help you be successful and actually leverage the cloud. there are tools, and as you walk around the expo, there are companies that are offering the ability to access your on-prem virtual machines and convert them to cloud format and have them ready to go, sitting on just disk. You're not leveraging any compute in the cloud until it's time to wrap things up. Was that I'm out of time? Can I have 30? Okay, give me 30 seconds and I'll wrap it up. So anyways, there are, like I said, there are products out there that will help you pre-launch the disaster recovery that you need and make sure that you can cut over in a quick and efficient way without spending a ton of money up front. Because I think the biggest thing I've seen is a lot of organizations try to do it with a colo, and that's where the cost comes. So I think if you can leverage the cloud, that's a big deal. So I was told I'm at time, so what I'm happy to do is stay. If anyone has any questions, we can definitely talk offline. And one more just quick final thought. So I added another track to the record. And so I think the key to success with business continuity and disaster recovery is really to start before you're ready. You don't want to wait till that disaster strikes. Get out there, start looking around, and figure out how you can keep your business online so you don't experience the losses that many organizations have when they've experienced a disaster. So